hard times, eventually closed down in the 80s. The city almost tore this building down then until the San Antonio Conservation Society were able to purchase the property, restore and reopen it a few years back, right next door to the Mercado Hotel, just past it, which used to be home to the L. Frank Saddlery in the early 20th century, which used to provide saddles and harnesses to Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, famous Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa, and Allied forces during World War I. Well, Denmark will sail underneath Salinas Bridge, named in honor of the famous Tejano singer Selena Quintanilla Perez, after Jennifer Lopez sat right here on this.
You like it?
Was seen during the movie
Yeah, I
Selena,
like it.
1997. The article was a mainstream breakthrough
It's a
war.
bridge.
Filmed right here on this footage were seen during the evening, and afterwards, Jennifer Lopez spent the night in La Mansión del Rio Hotel, to the left of our boat. Spanish for the mansion on the river was founded over a century ago in 1853 as the St. Mary's School for Boys. It was then later purchased by two former students of St. Mary's in 1956, who then restored and reopened it 2 years later, 1968, La Mansión del Rio Hotel. As a result, it's an excellent example of conservation, which is a bit of a major thing here in San Antonio, as many of the older, more historic buildings down here aren't always torn down. Many are preserved and restored, thanks to the efforts of many local conservation activists down here, including the San Antonio Conservation Society. Now, let me show you some other good examples of conservation later in our tour, but first if you look at La Mansión del Rio Hotel here, just past it, you'll see this very tall building right here, whose walls form a very sharp corner, less than 90 degrees. As a result, this tall building up here creates a really awesome little optical illusion along the Riverwalk, which we're going to see in just a few seconds here. First, we're going to pull onto the right side. Let my friend pass his by on the left. He's out of another location and thus is in the middle of his tour. We don't want to ruin his momentum if we can avoid doing so. Myself along the ballroom out from underneath the Ball Street Bridge, where as we do, you look right up to the left of the boat. From this view, you see that one building, which from this view looks like a tall, flat wall about the ballroom. This right here was founded in 1930 as the Knicks General Hospital. At the time, the first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospital in the entire United States. Unfortunately, they had to sell the property 2 years ago when it reopens. Supposed to be reopening as a Marriott hotel, right alongside the North Square up ahead of us here. Otherwise known as the nightlife of the river all around us here at this point. Where right in the heart of the North Square is the Hyatt Regency Hotel up in front of our boat above Pressure Street Bridge, which has the Alamo just on the other side of it. As a result, the Hyatt is only 16 floors tall. They wanted to make it taller when they founded it in 1981, but the San Antonio Conservation Society convinced its owners to scale it down the size so that it wouldn't cast a shadow on the Alamo during sunset. Though they did reserve room on the bottom river level of the Hyatt up here, the shops, the Paseo de Alamo right up here. Spanish for a passageway to the Alamo, this very beautiful area on the inside. We'll take you up to right in front of the Alamo, and Alamo calls the street to continue on straight through there at that point. One up on the other side of the Hyatt, just usually pass a few waterfalls, take a few drives there. You'll be right in front of the Alamo. Right next to the Alamo, which is where the horse-drawn carriages take off from. These songs are also possible to drive time of evening, and I will see a few later in our tour. Again, the horse-drawn carriages take off from right next to the Alamo, just walk down to the left of our boat. H&T Hotel. We're going to sail by the old Casino Club building to the right of our boat. Founded here in 1927 as a social club with German immigrants. Now it's home to a Saltgrass Steakhouse restaurant here, however, as well as an apartment complex on the very top, where Elaine Hugman used to live. She was the widow of Robert Harvey Thorold Hugman, and Robert Harvey Thorold Hugman was the architect who designed the entire Riverwalk all around us. This was all his vision right here. Robert Hugman designed all of the sidewalks, staircases, bridges, benches, everything you see around us here in the mid-1920s. He presented his designs to city leaders in 1929, hoping to secure funding for the Riverwalk. Sadly, city leaders rejected the proposed Riverwalk, but Robert Hugman wasn't going to give up that easily. Throughout the next few years, he was able to gather up some popular support and funding for his vision for Riverwalk from a variety of sources, including Moy Maverick, a U.S. congressman from San Antonio who was very intrigued by the idea for Riverwalk. Moy Maverick asked his good friend, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to send the world's projects administration down here, which President Roosevelt was reluctant to do at first. In fact, Moy Maverick had to ask him so many times, put so much pressure on him, so that at one point, he even rumored that President Roosevelt said, just get Moy Maverick the money for his darn liver so to put that on you already. And finally, after much pressure, the Works Projects Administration came down here and built the Riverwalk all around us from March 27, 1939 until March 14, 1941. Just under 2 full years. Though Robert Hugman himself, he's considered the father of the Riverwalk to this day. In fact, right after the Riverwalk was completed in 1941, Robert Hugman set up his old office just to the right of our boat on the bottom river level of this last building at the corner. If you look up on this balcony on street level, you'll see Robert Hugman's old office sign with his initials, R.H.H. Hugman, followed by AIA, which stands for American Institute of Architects. Robert Hugman set up shop right on the bottom river level here because he wanted to prove that a business could thrive upon the Riverwalk. Despite his best efforts, though, in its early years, it didn't do too well. Crime used to be a huge problem down here. Got so bad that at one point, this Riverwalk was even declared off limits to the military because of safety concerns. What actually changed the Riverwalk's luck down here, made it much safer, and as a result, more successful to this day was the World's Fair that our city hosted in 1968. And in the years leading up to that World's Fair in 1968, the city raised funds in order to help clean out the river, beef up security, and also build the man-made extension of the river we're going to be entering into right here. We're beginning underneath this little footbridge right here. Rest of the way down. It all used to be land up here. The city built the bridges above us up here on street level and dug it out underneath them, all the way down to 5 feet below us, so that they could extend the river and the Riverwalk all the way up to the hemispheric wall. Which is where that World's Fair took place from April 6th until October 6th in 1968. With full 6 months for which New York, their friends came down here, one back home, tell all of their friends, and so on and so on. So then now, thanks to word of mouth, since that World's Fair, this Riverwalk to this day is in constant rivalry with the Alamo, with the coveted title of most visited tourist destination in all of Texas, which has made it much safer down here for the military, which is a good thing since San Antonio is also a very big military town. Birthplace, in fact, of the U.S. Air Force, after the first U.S. military flight took place here in San Antonio. On March 2nd, 1910, by Lieutenant Benjamin De La Hall Beloy, with friend and student of the Wright brothers. And San Antonio, to this day, is also home to Lackland Air Force Base as well, which is where everyone within the enlisted branch of the United States Air Force comes for basic training, earning it the nickname the Gateway to the Air Force. Now, around this one turn, you look up to the roundabout here, you'll see the latest addition to the Riverwalk. This big metal sculpture was put up here earlier this year, mid-April, of these 2 giant metal flowers that were built using spare bicycle tires.
This one?
This This right here is a sculpture that's named Bloom. It was designed by a local artist down here named Leticia Huerta. You look at Bloom here, just past it, continuing to look up to the bottom of the boat in the sky here to see what was the centerpiece of the World's Fair in '68. The Tower of America is right up here. Founded here that year in 1968, and at the time it stood as the tallest freestanding tower in the entire United States of America, as it is 750 feet to the top of the antenna, just a little bit taller than the Seattle Space Needle. It retained that title as tallest freestanding tower in the United States of America for a good 28 years, until the Stratosphere in Las Vegas was founded in 1996. That Tower of America does still open up there to this day in the Hemisphere Plaza, which is a city park to this day, on the other side of the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, which is at the end of this extension way to the right of our boat at this fork here, which itself is unfortunately closed to our regular tour boats due to construction of this new statue ahead of us here, known as Stargazer. It's supposed to be a statue of a person looking at the stars with the holding in their right hand. It was designed by a Mexican artist named Pedro Reyes. The artist's conception of the statue is online if you look it up, but down here, it's not going to be unwrapped and publicly unveiled until the spring. And as a result, like I said, until then, the convention center extension to the bottom of our boat here closed to our regular tour boats. Instead, we're going to take a left turn at this fork and enter into the Rivercenter extension, which itself was added on later. Dug up here down to 5 feet deep the rest of the way down in the mid-'80s, so that they could extend this man-made area of the river all the way up to the Rivercenter Mall. The Rivercenter Mall was founded in 1988, but before they founded the Rivercenter Mall, they wanted to put these two Marriott hotels here in 1979. Marriott on the left, up on the other side of Palmer Street, they had no trouble putting up. And Marriott to the right of our boat, in its front here, used to sit the old Fairmont Hotel, an abandoned building which they wanted to tear down when they come to this Marriott. The San Antonio Conservation Society got involved and claimed that the Fairmont Hotel up here was too historic to tear down, since it used to be an old salesman's hotel. Instead, after more than 5 years negotiating, raising funds and planning, they took the 3-story, 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel that used to be back there, loaded it under about 36 axles, 8 truck towers each, and 30 steel beams, and then rounded up in steel cables, which were connected to trucks. Found that 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel, March 30th until April 4th in 1985, just about 6 blocks south into the west behind us. It's a new location.
Yeah. Oh, look at the Christmas tree.
And then we opened the first class hotel, and then it's all thought they were then able to put the Marriott Riverwalk back behind us. Followed, of course, by the Rivercenter Mall right here, whose part we're entering into right here. Itself the second largest mall here in all of San Antonio, beaten out only by the North Star Mall on the north side of Loop 410 in San Pedro.
Christmas tree.
Is, however, the only mall here in all of San Antonio with a river going right into its very center, hence Rivercenter, which has over 100 stores and restaurants here, 2 movie theaters, regular AMC movie theater, plus an IMAX theater with a much taller and wider screen, a couple of neat little virtual reality simulator rides on the very top floor, and of course the Christmas tree along the Riverwalk as well, just on this island to the bottom of the Central Lagoon. It's still going to be up here for another week and a half. It's usually just after the first full week of January that they take the Christmas tree down and also stop lighting up the Riverwalk as well. Like I said, just after the first full week of January is usually when that stops for the end of the holiday
There's a
season.
Christmas tree.
So another week and a half here, like I said.
The Christmas tree.
Don't want to take a walk around the Riverwalk, check it out. But we ourselves are going to go ahead and exit this Rivercenter Mall area here in just a few seconds. And as we exit this whole Rivercenter Mall area here, after San Antonio hosted the World's Fair in 1968, a lot of the countries who had attended it were very grateful to our city for having hosted that World's Fair. Some of them even gave us some lovely presents afterwards, one of which was the country of Portugal. Its government had a pavilion down here, where in front of their pavilion they had a statue. The very man in this river and the city built around it were named after. That statue was eventually placed just around this one turn, up to the right of our boat in the corner here, with the light being shone on it in the evening in order to make it easier to see. The statue right here of Saint Anthony de Padua, who's depicted as holding the baby Jesus in the center on top of a Bible. He was a 12th century Catholic patron saint of lost and stolen items, as well as the patron saint of Portugal. Hence the country of Spain, who were laid claim to much of what is now modern Texas and Mexico, had expeditions sent out in order to set up missions so that they could convert some of the local natives down here, and also create a defensive border against French-occupied Louisiana, since French and Spanish empires were major rivals with each other. The territory in the Americas at the time. One expedition was sent out in 1691, which came upon this river on June 13th of that year, where they met a very friendly Payaya Indian tribe camped along this river's banks, who had previously named the river Yanaguana, a word in their language meaning clear and refreshing waters. So Damien Montagne, Catholic missionary with that expedition party, gave some gift to those Indians as a sign of friendship, and then himself performed the first Catholic massacre along this river on that day of June 13, 1691, which was the feast day, St. Anthony de Padua, back there behind us, June 13th. So Damien Montagne himself then named the river San Antonio, once again Spanish for St. Anthony, with a city later being built around the river, taking the name of the river, and we've been growing ever since. In fact, further on up ahead of our boat, we're going to be exiting this man-made extension of the river here in just a few seconds, re-entering natural waters, beginning underneath the footbridge further on up ahead of us, and we're going to be turning by Riverwalk here. Lovely Mexican restaurant directly ahead of our boat here, which itself is in fact the first and oldest restaurant along the entire Riverwalk. Caserio up ahead of us here was founded here in 1946 by the Bear family. The Caserio ahead of us is also the first restaurant down here to have riverside dining, as well as the dinner boats along the river, which every restaurant now has to this day. In fact, to get more information on those dinner boats, maybe for future reference in case you come back down here again, all you need to do is contact our company's website at GoRealCruises.com. Now, as we turn by Caserio